Corals are fascinating marine animals that belong to the class Anthozoa within the phylum Cyanidarea, a group that also includes jellyfish and sea anemones. Despite their plant-like appearance and rocky structure, corals are indeed animals, made up of thousands of tiny individual organisms called polyps. These polyps form large colonies and are responsible for the formation of one of the most important ecosystems on Earth, coral reefs. Below is an in-depth look into the biology, habitat, feeding mechanisms, reproduction, and ecological significance of corals. 1. Physical characteristics of corals. Corals are invertebrate animals, and the main body of a coral is the polyp, a soft, cylindrical organism with a central mouth surrounded by tentacles. Each polyp can vary in size, but they are typically a few millimeters in diameter. What makes corals so remarkable is that thousands, or even millions, of polyps live together, forming vast colonies, skeleton and reef formation. Corals are known for their hard, rock-like skeletons, which are composed of calcium carbonate kakko. This is secreted by the polyps to build a protective exoskeleton. Over time, as corals grow and new polyps are produced, these skeletons accumulate to form massive structures we recognize as coral reefs. Coral reefs can take thousands of years to form and can extend for hundreds of miles, such as the famous Great Barrier Reef in Australia. Soft and hard corals. There are two main types of corals, hard corals and soft corals. Hard corals or reef-building corals are the ones that build calcium carbonate skeletons and are primarily responsible for creating coral reefs. Soft corals, like sea fans and sea whips, do not produce hard skeletons. Instead, they have flexible, often tree-like forms that sway with the current. While they are important parts of reef ecosystems, they do not contribute to reef building in the same way hard corals do. To habitat. Corals are primarily found in tropical and subtropical oceans, thriving in warm, shallow waters with temperatures ranging from 23 degrees Celsius to 29 degrees Celsius 73 degrees Fahrenheit to 84 degrees Fahrenheit. Most corals are located in areas with high sunlight because of their symbiotic relationship with zooxanthellae explained below. They are predominantly found along the equatorial belt, including the Indo-Pacific region, Caribbean, and Red Sea. Environmental conditions. Corals are very sensitive to changes in water temperature, salinity, and clarity. They require warm temperatures. Most corals live in waters that are between 68 degrees Fahrenheit 20 degrees Celsius and 90 degrees Fahrenheit 32 degrees Celsius. Sunlight. Corals rely on sunlight because of their symbiotic algae, so they typically grow in shallow waters up to about 150 feet 45 meters deep. However, some species can live at greater depths. Clear water, sediment, or pollution in the water can block sunlight and smother coral reefs, so they are most commonly found in areas with clean, clear water. 3. Feeding and symbiosis. Corals have a unique dual mode of feeding. They can capture prey, but much of their energy comes from a symbiotic relationship with algae, zooxanthellae. Many corals have a symbiotic relationship with microscopic algae called zooxanthellae, which live within their tissues. These algae are crucial for the survival of coral reefs. Through photosynthesis, zooxanthellae convert sunlight into energy, producing nutrients that the coral uses for growth and survival. In return, the algae receive protection and access to the compounds they need for photosynthesis, such as carbon dioxide and waste products produced by the coral. This relationship is so critical that without the algae, corals would struggle to survive, especially in nutrient-poor waters. The vibrant colors of coral are largely due to the pigments of the zooxanthellae. When corals become stressed due to changes in water temperature, pollution, or other factors, they can expel the algae, leading to coral bleaching, where the coral turns white and often dies if the algae are not reabsorbed. Carnivorous feeding. In addition to photosynthesis through zooxanthellae, corals actively feed on plankton and small particles in the water. Using their tentacles, which are equipped with specialized stinging cells called nematocysts. Corals can capture tiny organisms floating in the water, like plankton. The nematocysts release a toxin that paralyzes the prey, allowing the coral to bring it to its mouth for digestion. Reproduction. Corals reproduce both sexually and asexually, and they use fascinating mechanisms for both types of reproduction. Asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction occurs when new polyps are produced by budding, where a part of the coral polyp divides and forms a new polyp. This method allows corals to expand their colonies rapidly and repair damaged sections. Sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction in corals happens through a process called broadcast spawning. Most coral species are hermaphroditic, meaning they produce both eggs and sperm, but some have separate male and female individuals. During a spawning event, corals simultaneously release eggs and sperm into the water, where fertilization occurs externally. These events often happen at night and are synchronized with lunar cycles and water temperature. Once fertilized, coral larvae, known as planulae, are free-swimming and drift with the currents until they find a suitable place to settle. After settling, they attach to a hard surface and develop into a new polyp, eventually forming a new coral colony. 5. Coral reefs. Ecological importance. Coral reefs are sometimes called the rainforests of the sea because of their incredible biodiversity. Although they cover less than 1% of the ocean floor, coral reefs support about 25% of all marine species, making them one of the most productive and biologically diverse ecosystems on Earth. Biodiversity. Coral reefs provide habitat, shelter, and food for a wide range of marine organisms, including fish, crustaceans, mollusks, sponges, and many more. They offer critical breeding grounds and nurseries for numerous species, especially fish. Many commercially important fish species rely on coral reefs for part of their life cycle. Ecosystem services. Coastal protection. Coral reefs act as natural barriers, protecting coastlines from the effects of wave action and storms. They help prevent erosion and reduce the damage caused by tsunamis and hurricanes. Tourism. Coral reefs are major tourist attractions, drawing millions of visitors for snorkeling, diving, and fishing. In countries like Australia, the Maldives, and many Caribbean nations, reefs contribute significantly to the economy. Fisheries. Reefs support commercial and subsistence fisheries, providing a food source for millions of people worldwide. Many communities in tropical regions are highly dependent on the fish and other marine life that live around coral reefs. 6. Threats to coral reefs. Despite their importance, coral reefs face numerous threats, many of which are driven by human activity. These include climate change. Rising sea temperatures. Warmer ocean temperatures can cause coral bleaching, where corals expel their zooxanthellae, lose their color, and often die. Ocean acidification. Increased levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere are absorbed by the ocean, lowering the pH and making the water more acidic. This can weaken coral skeletons and inhibit their ability to grow. Overfishing. Overfishing, especially of key species like herbivorous fish, can disrupt the balance of reef ecosystems. Without these fish, algae can overgrow and smother corals. Pollution. Nutrient runoff from agriculture, sewage, and industrial pollution can lead to eutrophication, where excessive nutrients in the water fuel the growth of harmful algae that can outcompete and suffocate corals. Destructive fishing practices. Practices like dynamite fishing and cyanide fishing cause significant physical damage to coral reefs, breaking apart the delicate structures and killing marine life. Coral mining and coastal development. Corals are sometimes mined for use in construction materials or souvenirs, which can deplete reef resources. Coastal development, such as building on or near shorelines, can lead to sedimentation and water pollution, further harming reefs.